Wolf, Wolf by Elizabeth and Gerald Rose. Jason was a goat herd. Every day he drove the goats up the hillside to graze on the scant grass. He watched out for wolves and bears, which were fond of young goats to eat. On hot days, the goats wandered through the brambles to stand in the shade of the olive trees. Sometimes a ram would catch his curly horns in the bushes and brambles, and Jason would have to untangle him. Most of the time he sat and whittled away at sticks, played his pipes, or talked to the goats. One day he was feeling particularly bored. The goats nudged him with their bony heads and their pleading rang in his ears. He thought how dull it was watching stupid goats. Then he had an idea. He leapt up and blew his horn with all his might to sound the alarm. Then he ran towards the village shouting, "Wolf! Wolf! A wolf is attacking the goats!" He passed some women washing at a stream. Immediately there was a hurry and scramble. They dropped their washings, gathered up their children, and ran home to tell their husbands. The butcher rushed out with his cleaver. The farmers grabbed their forks and hoes. Every man in the village seized some kind of weapon and hurried up the hill. But when they reached the grazing goats, they stopped short. No wolf had been there. They hunted behind the rocks just to make sure. Jason's father counted the goats. They were all there. "You rascal," he shouted. "There was no wolf. You did this for a joke." Everyone was very angry to have had such a fright for nothing. They grumbled and went back to their work. Some weeks later, as Jason sat alone and bored, he suddenly remembered how very funny it had been to see everyone rush out, and before he could stop himself, he ran into the village and cried, "Wolf! Wolf! A wolf is attacking the goats!" Everyone rushed out as before, only to find out the goats nibbling the grass as peacefully as ever. Then they saw that Jason had tricked them again, and they were furious. His father beat him and sent him to bed with no supper. A few days later, as Jason was watching the goats, he saw a lean gray shape sleek over the rocks, and he screamed out, "A wolf! A real wolf!" And it was a real wolf. He ran down the hill. "Help! Help! Please come quickly," he cried. "A wolf is after the goats." Everyone in the village laughed at him. They were not going to be tricked again. "It's true. He is very hungry. He will kill the goats." A woman wagged her finger at him. "I've heard that story before," she said. Jason grabbed his father's arm. "A wolf is on the hill. Please come and drive him away." His father had heard enough of wolves too. "Then go and see it yourself," he said. Jason was horrified, but he turned and ran back up the hill. He had to save the goats. He saw the wolf, a kid in his mouth. The other goats had scattered in the panic. Jason bore down on the wolf, swinging his crook and shouting. The wolf dropped the kid and bared his teeth. Jason beat the wolf about the head with his crook. wolf backed away, growling and snarling. Jason followed, still shouting at the top of his voice. He ran him back along the steep ridge of rocks. The wolf cowered to avoid the rains and blows that Jason showered on his head. He did not see how close he was to the edge. Suddenly, he yelped and tumbled off the cliff edge to fall on the rocks below. Jason picked up the little kid. It was badly hurt. He rounded up the goats that had strayed and carried the wounded kid home. The end.